going to be a little bit like mindfulness speed dating. We're going to dive right into this topic with the 15 minutes that we have. So, hello, gentlemen, dear friends. Martin, we're going to start with you, and I wonder if you could just provide some context for why you're involved in this work at Starbucks and why it's so compelling to you.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I mean, I think about for most of my career and certainly my life, the theme has been about helping others be better, and I think mindfulness in so many ways does that, right? In terms of helping us be more resilient, to be more focused, and to help others. So I think at its core, that's what it's about for me, and really for Starbucks. I've only been with Starbucks for less than 2 years, but what I've learned in terms of its mission, its values, it's perfect condition. It's a perfect environment for us to explore mindfulness, and we can talk a little bit more later about our values and mission. But it's the perfect environment.
Lovely. And just for a little more context, just describe your role a little more specifically.
Sure. When I joined Starbucks a couple of years ago, I was hired to lead HR for China, Asia Pacific. So we've got about 60,000 partners. We call our employees partners in the region. So I was recently moved into a different role where I have responsibility for global talent for the company. And what that means is it's about capability building. It's about retail learning. It's about succession planning. It's about organizational design, among other things. So.
And how many employees now are
We have over 300,000 employees around the world.
It's a lot of coffee.
It's a lot of coffee.
Rich, can you talk a bit about Wisdom Labs and the interaction with Starbucks and how you've approached the endeavor?
Yeah. So I have a small organization that I co-founded, and we're really trying to bring the science and data together with experiential and digital learning to promote mindfulness and compassion and well-being within organizations. And so Martin reached out, and I think we had a great conversation from the first, it was a phone call, I think, and just really sort of exploring these topics of what is the role of mindfulness in things like resilience, in helping folks in the context in which they work at a company like Starbucks to just be their best. And that was a great conversation, followed by several hours up in Seattle that just was really clear that we had to kind of partner to do something. And I guess the rest is in flight. And it's been really fun, and it's been amazing to see the energy.
And can you just go a little more granular for me? Talk a little bit more now about, and so what is this beginning to look like, practically speaking, for the Starbucks employees, or the pilot work right now that's going on?
Yeah. So maybe before we talk about that, maybe we can just ask for this slide to come up.
Yeah.
So what you see here, first of all, is our mission statement. To inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. I just love that, because at the end of the day, it's not even about the coffee, it's not about the food or beverages that we sell. It's about how do we nurture the human spirit and how are we connecting people around the world. And if you look at the third value, it's about being present. How lucky am I to be in an organization where one of our values is to be present? And really the question has become, how do we help our partners around the world become even more present? So that's really the question that we're asking with Rich's help. And we're still very early in the journey. We started back in November, where we asked Rich and Parneet from Wisdom Labs to come out to Hong Kong, where we had a small team of my HR leaders, and had a three-day session with them. And by the end of it, we were pretty convinced that this was the right thing for the company. In fact, what Rich and Parneet did had the highest rating in terms of the overall meeting, so that really says something. And then we brought it to Seattle recently, and have touched over 100 partners with this. And they're coming back next week for a couple more workshops, and I've got a waiting list for yet another workshop. So I think we're onto something really significant, because at the end of the day, beyond the scores, I mean, 98% of the participants have told us that they would recommend this to another partner. 100% said that they found it to be very effective. But putting all that aside is just, I think our partners are just hungry. They're hungry to be connected in an even deeper way, and mindfulness, I think, is helping with that.
So, which is a really, I think it's an interesting way to think about it, right? Because mindfulness has been defined in so many ways by so many dear friends and teachers in this room. And what's been neat about working with Starbucks is we're able to make it real in a very practical way that has a lot to do with some of the things you saw on that page. So when the company values suggest that being present and connecting authentically with others are part of what it means to be a part of the organization, that's how we're working with mindfulness, right? Which is we're thinking about it in terms of first being present and training your attention, and then connecting authentically, which really connects one with oneself, with others, with the world, and really carries in our experience in what we've intentionally tried to do all the way through compassion. And when we do some of the compassion practices, the compassion meditations and mindfulness practices, there's a lot of tears and a lot of, I think, pretty profound things that happen with those partners. And so this is all fairly early stage. We've just gone through these pilots, but it looks like it's feeling like Martin said, that there's a real hunger and a need and a way that this brings not just the company values to life, but brings people into sort of a little bit more of a fullness and a vibrancy.
And Rich, you talk about, I know, Wisdom Labs work a bit, and this commitment to science and evidence-based in what you're doing. Can you talk about the application of that in this context as well?
Sure, yeah. So again, I said we look at science and data because it's really important to have that, the objective piece, right? And we want to be really diving into things like survey intelligence. We're getting into biomarker readings of, Richie Davidson yesterday talked about not only the neuroscience, but the epigenetics. So those are also things we are starting to investigate and incorporate into how we position mindfulness. However, there's a whole other component that's equally, and perhaps if not more important, which is the subjective experience, right? And I think these two are not mutually exclusive, that in fact they can co-occur, and that in being able to present those in a context like Starbucks and in some other of our client systems, because we work with a number of other organizations, I think that's almost like the secret sauce, right? How do you connect science and data, which we're endeavoring to do, and bring that together with a deep and transformative experiential type learning, and wrap it with digital learning as well, so that you can go to scale, reach people wherever they are on demand. That's really kind of how we're approaching all of this. That said, our work is really early stages, so we just came through some pilots with wonderful feedback, and so this is about now how to continue on this journey and really bring those objective and subjective elements together so that people can do their best.
Lovely. And I know you were very concerned that you were clear it was pilot stages and you didn't want to make any grand statements, so I'll say that again as I sort of Mirandize everyone with this next question, but I'm still very curious, even with the pilots, what have you learned so far? Or were there any big surprises that came out of these early days experiments?
Yeah, I mean, what I've said to Rich is, I was the initial advocate for this in the company, and really just trying to demonstrate a little bit of courage to bring this right to the forefront. But what I've learned is it's taken a life of its own. So partners are now just telling other partners, and there's almost this organic, very kind of bubble up effort that's happening. And Rich and I just keep talking. We don't know what the future's what the future holds, and that's okay. And it will unfold the way it needs to unfold at the right time. So we don't need to push it,
Yeah.
right? Just accept what it is. But it's been pretty amazing in that I've been able to actually step back, and others have been just kind of carrying it forward, and I just get asked to sign a check.
And how?
Thank you for that, by the way.
And in a timely way, which is very nice.
Yeah, and I do want to say, though, I do need to send some love Martin's way, because he's been an amazing champion, and this is one thing we're learning, which is that it takes a really committed and somebody who's really embodied in this whole field to bring it in to an organization, and someone who's brave and has vision. And so Martin's been that, right? He's taken a risk to bring this into Starbucks. However, again, it's just been received so, I think, impactfully, and people have been coming and telling us they're so moved by this. But the work of a dedicated internal champion, whom we have the fortune of partnering with, and the best thing of all of this, I have to say honestly, is I've become friends. That's what I really count as a great blessing in all the work, is just coming together as friends.
How has the work together changed each of you? How are you different now than you were when you started this?
Good question.
Good question.
It's not even about me. I mean, the work has never been about me. It's about how do we help Starbucks, the organization, become even better than it is today. It's how do we nurture that human spirit, right, one partner at a time. How do we balance performance through the lens of humanity? It's always, for me, and that's the beautiful thing about working at Starbucks. It's never about you, the leader, right? It's always about the partners. And there's something really just powerful about that. There's something really empowering about that. So I just find myself, I'm at home. I feel like I'm at home with Starbucks, and I feel unleashed in terms of the potential impact that I can have on the organization, not just through mindfulness, but everything else that I'm responsible for in terms of building capabilities, skill set, and so forth. So perhaps one word that describes it, I just feel unleashed right now. I feel like I'm at home.
Rich, what about you?
So the two words that come to mind are inspired and grateful, because of the possibility, right? So Martin and I talk about this all the time, and I think I can let the cat out of the hat here, which is we have an aspiration, really, to share and offer this set of practices broadly, for example, to the entire Starbucks employee base one day, hopefully, right? That's 300,000 people who interact with millions of people every day. And if, when they meet, they can meet in a place of connectedness, presence, and compassion, the ripple effects are frickin' awesome. And that...
Technical term.
The technical word, frickin', yeah. And that really inspires me and makes me hopeful and finally grateful.
It's interesting because Starbucks is so uniquely positioned, because every time that cup is handed over, it's actually this intimate moment of contact.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious about, in your larger dreams, about what this could inspire in those communities around the world. What does that look like? What gets unleashed if you all are successful?
When we talk about performance driven through the lens of humanity, humanity is about internally how we treat each other. It's about respect. It's about transparency. It's about being vulnerable. But it's also, there's an external element. We want to do good in the world. And really, when we look at customer insights, why customers keep coming back, it's about the coffee, but it's actually a lot about the connection that our customers have with the partner that's in that store. So really the opportunity is how do we elevate that connection even greater than it is today. And if mindfulness can be a part of that, then I would be very happy.
Beautiful.
Can I share one last thing?
In 44 seconds.
Yeah, I can do that. I could do that. We are bringing mindfulness to business. And importantly, I think it needs to be said that there's also an ethical basis to this, which is a deep connection in that process to the interconnectedness of everyone and everything. And if we can get there to the felt realization of the interconnection and interdependence amongst all of us and all things, then that's a new day, and it's a beautiful day. So that's the aspiration.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you both. It's a privilege. Thank you.